well before Brown versus Board of Education, well before the KKK imploded, well before we had race-based preferences. Why? Because it was rare for a black kid to be raised in a family without a father in the home, a strong belief in Judeo-Christian values, a belief in patriotism, even as America wasn't applying these values to black people, obviously, and a belief in entrepreneurship. All those things are now under assault by organizations like Black Lives Matter. Charlamagne, Black Lives Matter had on their website an attack on the nuclear family. The founders are self-described Marxists, trained Marxists. Marx wanted to dethrone God, was an atheist, and Marx did not believe in capitalism, let alone entrepreneurship. All the things that made black people still survive in virulent racism are now under attack by organizations like Black Lives Matter.
All of those things have always been under attack by white supremacy. You can go back to things like whether it's the Tulsa race massacres, like every time black people do create these systems that are our systems and we are the entrepreneurs, it seems like white supremacy finds a way to destroy it.
Every time, look, the Tulsa massacre, within about 5 years, that whole area was rebuilt. It was not even called the Black Wall Street until after it was rebuilt. It was rebuilt, by the way, by black people without one dime of government money.
Yeah, who destroyed it to begin with?
It was racists who destroyed it.
But it was rebuilt. And I didn't know that they called it Black Wall Street after they rebuilt it. I didn't know that. So I was just schooled. But the point is they rebuild it without a dime from the federal government. That's the point. That means we can do it.
No question about it. We've had race riots. So have Japanese.
So you do agree that? You know, I do want to point out it's very irritating to me that when we talk about this kind of stuff, systematic racism and stuff that happened in the past, okay, a lot of liberals will tell you, and this is where they're going, they will tell you that since you are a conservative viewing person, you are trying to disown or say it does not exist. Well, you would have to be a damn fool to say, oh, racism doesn't exist. And that's not what Larry Elder is saying. He's saying, okay, I know there's certain things that exist, racism, that is out of my control. But what I do have control of, that's what I'm going to focus my energy on. Do you know how far we will be as a people if we do that together? I know I cannot control this outside parameter, but I can control everything that happens, what I'm doing, how it's going to affect my people, how it's going to affect my family, everything I do, because all your actions have some type of reaction. So I don't understand when we get to talking about this, liberals always want to point out like you're just trying to say racism doesn't exist. No, we know racism exists. We just continue to focus on the things that matter. Why are we so hyper-focused on what another person is doing and not hyper-focusing on what we could do and what we should be doing anyway?
There's racism. I'm just so confused.
You know, I never even came close to saying. I never came close to saying there was no racism.
You just say you don't think it's systemic racism.
Not anymore. Obviously, there was. We had something called slavery. We had something called Jim Crow.
That destroyed black. Hold on, sir. That was the system that destroyed Black Wall Street. It's the same system right now that's not even wanting to pay those same living descendants, because I know your position on reparations, but those same living descendants of Black Wall Street.
Okay.
And then you go on to say that the system, the quote unquote system, is also trying to destroy President Trump. So I'm just so confused on, do you believe that the system can destroy or not? You pick and choose, sir, and that's what's so confusing to me. You just said it wasn't racism. Now it is racism. When it was time.
That's not what he said. You're just not listening at this point. You're trying to get a gotcha moment, and you're not listening. You're not listening to understand what he's talking about.
I said it wasn't.
There was no racism.
I said it wasn't systemic racism. Let's talk about.
So what? Are you just hung up on the word system?
Can I just make this point, Charlamagne, please? Let's take Chinese Americans. Chinese Americans were the first ethnic group to be excluded with an immigration act in the late 1800s. They had riots against Chinese in L.A., in San Francisco. There were laws that prevented Chinese Americans from participating in the laundry business. I'm in California. California, of course, rounded up Japanese Americans during World War II. There were laws that prevented Japanese Americans from owning farmland. The average Japanese American household has a higher per capita income than the average white household. The average Chinese American household has a higher per capita income than the average white household. How does that happen? It happens because of a strong belief in family. It is rare for a Chinese American or a Japanese American kid to have a child outside of wedlock, and a strong belief in education and a strong belief in entrepreneurship. These are the kinds of qualities that make people successful.
You can't blame everything on having a fatherless family, right? Because
I didn't say blaming everything.
I know, but that's what you're saying. You're saying a strong community.
No, you said that's what I just said. I didn't say that.
You talk about the Asian community. Asian community, it's easy for them to get loans for entrepreneurships. It's easy for them to get loans for houses.
Here go DJ Envy, the quiet storm. Look, you don't know. You don't know that. I hate that narrative where people think that, oh, your white counterpart or your Chinese counterpart is going to get a better loan than you, or you might not get one. I've been working in loans for the longest. I help other people get business loans. I have received several business loans for my business. Credit score is low, you might not get a business loan. Business loans have stringent policies. So yeah, if you got high debt ratio, you don't got no equity, you don't got no credit, yeah, you might not get a business loan. And I tell my clients that all the time. You might not get a business loan because you got poor credit or you got too much debt. And then you got all these business, and these are Black business, I guess, moguls that's trying to teach people or how to use your business credit to get business loan. But a lot of them be lying to you because they selling the narrative, oh, you don't need to use your personal credit to get a business loan. Well, if you don't have no legitimate business, and if your business don't make a certain dollar amount, you're going to have to use a personal guarantee on your loan. This is the lack of education of what he's talking about. And I wish he would stop telling that lie, DJ Envy, because I know you for a fact receive multiple loans for your properties. How'd you get your loans?
You look at our community.
Okay.
If you really want to talk about our community, right? You look at the schools in our community. Some of our schools are the worst, right? Would you agree with that? Yes or no?
Absolutely. Which
Right?
is why one
books.
of the reasons I'm running for president is for school choice.
Also, would you say that it's in our
That's
community?
also
It's
systemic. by the
it's
way.
also in our community is heavy food.
That's not systemic. That has everything to do with you voting in these crackpot politicians and identity politics that ruin your community. You got people in your community that don't believe in school choice. They don't have accountability for failing school system. Child left behind means all children was left behind. You don't penalize people for doing crimes. So that's why your neighborhood is sucky. Take ownership. That's what we need to start doing. Taking ownership of what we've caused. It had nothing to do with the white man. We caused most of this stuff that's happening today. We caused it. We 100% caused our own demise today.
There's nothing but fast food places that are just killing and destroying that. Would you say that's true?
Systemic too. by the way.
Boy.
Would you say that's true? I'm just asking a question.
Okay, you said a number of things. I just addressed one of them about loans. In 1965, Barack Obama, who was in private practice, joined a bunch of other lawyers to file a class action lawsuit against Citicorp, which is headquartered here in New York. 186 Black people were applying for loans for mortgages and didn't get them. And they accused Citicorp of engaging in racism. Citicorp said, no, it's not racism. You have poor credit scores, and we want to make sure we get our money back. Obama joined a bunch of other lawyers, and they sued Citicorp in a class action lawsuit. And Citicorp said, okay, to hell with it. Gave them all loans. And they followed them all up. Daily Caller did a few years later. Almost all of them lost their homes. Several of them filed for bankruptcy. One of them even said, you know, when you don't qualify for a loan, maybe we shouldn't get a loan. Well, duh. It wasn't true that Black people were not getting loans. Plus, there are all sorts of Black-owned community banks around the country. And it turns out the turn-down rate when you apply for a loan at a Black community bank was even higher because they had less capital and they couldn't afford to loan money to risky people. It is just not the case that the reason for the plight of the Black community is because people were not lending money to them. It's just not true.
That's not true. But hold on one second, Charlamagne. So
What's not
you
true?
bring about facts of 1965, right? Let's talk 2023, right?
I said 1995.
1995. We'll talk 2023, right? My son will be successful in real estate and successful in buying a house. You know why? Because of you. Because of you owns a house, right? But my father
because of you and the drive. Because of you and the drive you put into it.
Not own houses.
Because of you and the drive you put into it.
We're not gonna have a conversation.
You're not even appreciating what you've done to your son.
I'm just asking you a question. I just let you speak. I'll let you talk.
Okay.
We have a conversation.
All right.
When we talk about it, right? It's harder for our community to get loans, right? And not just because of poor credit scores. It's because of where the areas are. You talked about the Asian community. A lot of the Asian community have their own banks and they're able to process and get their own banks. There's not too many African American branches that are able to give out money. So that's one. Then let's talk about getting grants for schools. They're not even giving grants for schools at the rate that they're giving grants for white people. And let's talk about when they talk about entrepreneurs.
Charlotte, right now, Envy is making up stuff. You could get a Pell Grant. You could be poor as Poe and get a Pell Grant. It doesn't matter what type of grade you have. Whatever school you go to, if you get accepted into a community college or university, over this line, a Pell Grant worthy, I think it's like $65,000 a year. You guys let me know, put it in the chat. You can get a Pell Grant. So what are you talking about? And I don't know if Larry Elder said this with Asian people. Asian people, reason why they get better loans and they're able to get loans, period. They have the highest credit score. They live within their means or below their means, and they save their money. That's why they're able to get better loans and all that good stuff, because they got really good credit. We choose to buy Cadillac, use our credit to buy Cadillac trucks and stuff like that, and get a high ass car note. Then we say, oh, let me go out and get a loan for a business loan. No, you sucking that $1,700 payment that you're putting in your car. You could have put that in your business, but you need a business loan. Take that car back. You don't need a fancy car. Anyway.
Entrepreneurship. They are giving so much money to these white and Asian kids and Asian people doing it. And
why is he saying that? I don't understand. It's so many people of color scholarships, LGBTQ scholarships, people of color. Why is he even saying that they're giving money, especially grants and scholarships, to just white kids? We know that's not true. We know that's not true. Kids, especially if you a kid that's in sports, you get an athletic scholarship or an academic scholarship. But hello, if you're going to the public schools and your subpar academics, can't pass the ACT, you can't do pass the SAT test, you don't get a high score. Of course, your academic scholarship, you might not get one. Whose fault is that? We got to take that's not nothing to do with systematic racism. No one stole the book from you. Libraries are free. Studying is free. You got to take some ownership. You don't get a loan or a grant or a scholarship is because what you put in is what you get out. Your credit score is not high is because you got a high debt to ratio. You don't pay your bills on time.
1,000 times less than our community. Will you agree to any of that?
No, I don't. I don't agree with virtually any of what you just now said. The turn down rate for a white applicant for a mortgage is higher than the turn down rate for a Japanese or Chinese applicant for a mortgage. Now, are you telling me that banks are discriminating against white and in favor of Asian Americans? It's because their credit scores are better. They often live below their means. They save more, even when they're making the same amount of money than black people do. If you have poor credit score, you're not going to get a loan. Period. End of statement. Even the head of Urban League, a black man once said that if you have poor credit score, you're not going to get a loan. End of statement.
Sir,
yes.
Let's just When you were talking about crime, you weren't prepared to talk about disproportion. You talked about how it was more black people that was doing it, and then you talked about how we're the smaller, other.
This is so sad right here, because you could tell she didn't take a statistic class ever. Probably no probability, probably math class at all, because. Why are you even asking this question? But I'm going to let her continue. But it's a really stupid question.
Population. The same applies also to the loans. It's more white people than it is black people. You seem to pick and choose.
I'm talking about the rate. I'm talking about the rate.
Whatever it is, the bottom line.
She's saying whatever it is, but that's the answer to your question, lady. Rate. Do you know what rate means? No, apparently not. That's why it's so frustrating. Listen to this. She doesn't like the simplest things. She's trying to hone down into something, but you don't know what to hone down into because you don't know what he's talking about. You don't understand. Layman's term. I was talking to my son. I have them doing summer bridge learning. This is a book where it teaches them the next course or the next grade. So, every day they just do 2 pages. It's some math, some reading, logical questions, stuff like that. And my son asked me, "Hey, mommy, like, is the answer is this?" And I said, "Okay, what is the question?" Then he said the question. I said, "Well, do you know what that word means? If you don't know what the word means, how can you answer the question?" And I said, "Okay, figure out that word mean, then read the question again, then answer it." You see what I'm getting at? This is the same with her. Now, my son is 9. This Teslin Figueroa, she might be in her mid-30s to late 30s. But like, if you don't know the words, how can you answer a question or ask a question if you don't know what he's talking about? And then if he gives you the answer, it's not the answer you're expecting, because you don't even know what you're asking. This is really making my brain hurt.
Mine is it's more white people than it is black people. And so if more black people are not getting loans disproportionately, it seems you only want to apply the disproportion to the conversation when it benefits your talking
I'm not
points,
sure you understood.
which is why they say,
I'm not sure you
No,
understood.
understood.
I'm not sure you understood my point. That's why I mentioned in 1995 when 186 black people who were not getting loans filed a class action lawsuit claiming that they were denied the loan because of racism. Citicorp said, okay, here are your loans. The reason I wasn't giving you the loans is because we're afraid you weren't going to be able to pay them back.
I'm not talking about
Fast
this,
forward,
sir.
they weren't able to pay them back, which proves
Sir,
the
I'm not
Citicorp
talking
point.
about that. I'm not talking
I know
about
you're
that. I'm
not,
talking about your
'cause
response.
inconvenient.
I'm talking about your response to Envy when you said more white people get approved for loans.
Since you
I'm
like
not talking
numbers,
about that.
Washington
I
Post
said-
said black Americans have the highest denial rates for purchase and refinance of loans, according to Home Mortgage Disclosures Act.
Because of
20%
their credit
black,
score.
all credit scores are the same. 15% of Hispanic loan applicants were denied, compared with about 11% of white and 10% of Asian applicants with same credit scores. And that's Washington Post, since you love numbers so much, and I know you do love numbers. That's coming from the Washington Post. That's 2023, not 1995.
I can show you a study that says the opposite.